Okay, welcome back to Storytime with Sarge. So I'm in my new temporary recording studio. Eventually, I'll have a permanent one, but this is in a bigger room in my basement. Um, so I planned on having one of my old soldiers, and one I've mentioned on here several times, Derek Bailing, because we're going through a chronological timeline of my service and my leadership before I get into like separate stories where my podcast will probably get shorter unless I have different guests. Today, I want to answer one question that I had, actually, two questions, and I'm going to go over a little bit about some reading I've done, very common reading. Everyone's probably done something similar or read the same stuff. I don't know. That really transformed how I treated my soldiers, not only my leadership style, but how I treated them. And it really is effective. And we're going to go over, like I said, there's two questions. I think that was it. Probably not, because I like to ramble. But the first thing is to answer a question from Cooper Rose on YouTube. One of the things he said, let me read it verbatim here. He said, "What's your best advice for someone that will be soon given leadership roles and more responsibility for the first time in the Army?" And that's a very good question. I think you may remember the story of when I had to tell some soldiers to cut some grass, and one of them said, "You're not gonna be that guy, are you? Like you're not gonna go all sergeant on me or NCO." It's a tough line to cross because 9 times out of 10, 10 times out of 10, really, when your unit promotes you to sergeant, they keep you. People say they're supposed to move you to another unit or something like that, so you get a fresh start and they don't know who you were prior. It never happens. I don't know if it's ever been an actual regulation. I bet if I looked it up for 5 minutes, I might find something like it, but for now, I don't know. It could be one of those things that everyone says, but it's not actually true. So, Cooper, to answer your question, one thing is remember your levels of power. Okay, it's very important for people to see your leadership come out and not your in chargership, if you know what I mean. Let me pull it up here because I know Cooper may have actually been through one of my, I guess, soapboxes, for lack of better terms. But the 5 levels of power. So I like telling these levels of power in a form of a story. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell one for military folk to understand a little better. And then I'll tell on a civilian and a civilian aspect so you can fully understand it because the terms I might use might be confusing. So there are 5 levels of power. It was originally identified by two psychologists, John French and Bertram Raven, identified these levels. And they are legitimate power, reward power, expert power, referent power, and coercive power. So in the Army, we do this thing in the morning, every single morning at stupid, ridiculous times. And it's called physical training, PT, right? A leader will get in front of a formation of soldiers, which is a group, a large rectangular group of soldiers, and they extend out and they start stretching. And if let's go with the first level of power, right? So I was a sergeant first class in the Army, right? That is a legitimate power. What legitimate means in the as far as power is concerned, it is the Army trusted me. Congress trusted me as a sergeant first class to be awesome based on potential, not based on my rank, right? So they're like, let's make you a sergeant first class because you are great. And they don't know anything about me. They just trust me with that rank based off of evaluations, time in service, and looking at a bunch of other records that really don't matter to you right now. That's legitimate power. And it goes all the way down, right? To the first level of leadership is corporal, is sergeant, staff sergeant, sergeant first class, and all the way up. I'm not going to go through the ranks because this isn't a class on rank structure. When it comes to legitimate power, it's given to you, no matter what it is. In the civilian side, I'll go over this in a minute, but I'm going to keep it in order. So I can get in front of a formation right now. Even if I throw a uniform back on with this beard, obviously I won't be able to. But if I were still in the Army, and I put a uniform on, and I was wearing Sergeant First Class rank, and everyone in that formation was less than a Sergeant First Class, they would have to listen to me. By Army regulation, unless it was unethical or illegal, they'd have to listen to me, right? So I get out there in front of the PT formation, and I'm like, all right, everyone's getting ready to extend to the left, right? And I say, extend to the right, march. And they're all looking at me all confused, like, what? But they have to do it. And I'm like, hey, what did I say? Do it. And they extend to the right. Very confused, but they extend to the right, right? And then I'm like, right face, right? And then I tell them, like, right away start stretching. You know, like the hamstring stretch standing. And then they're, again, looking at me like, what in the world is he talking about? Right? Because things have changed. One, extend to the right's not even a thing. But there's old stretches that us old crusty non-commissioned officers remember. And a lot of, I'm just saying that in terms of in that situation. And I was in a training environment for the last couple of years of my time in the Army. So there is a little confusion there. And then I get this young staff sergeant that comes up. He gets up next to me and he's like, hey, you mind if I take over? And I'm like, absolutely not. Matter of fact, get to the back of the formation. I just look like a complete jerk, right? That's legitimate power. But they know Staff Sergeant, we'll say Staff Sergeant Betancourt. He's actually one of my old soldiers who became an NCO and was a leader right along with me when we taught at the interrogation course. So Staff Sergeant Betancourt comes up and he's like, hey, let me take over. I got this, Sergeant. And I kick him in the back of the formation. He looks like a complete idiot in front of all the soldiers. But the soldiers know every single day, except for that day, Sergeant Betancourt is leading the formation. And he does everything by the book the right way, right? Immediately they see him and they're like, that guy, especially compared to Sergeant Eck, right? That guy has expert power, right? That's the second one. Legitimate followed by expert. So expert power, that means simply that. You're awesome at whatever the situation is at that time, right? You're an expert in that field, whether it's your whole job, whether it's physical training in the morning, right? Whether it's driving a vehicle. I was a master driver in the Army for 18 years, right? I was an expert when it came to driving military vehicles, but I was not an expert at, logistics, supply, right? Things like that. So at that point, they looked at him. He is the expert in this job. Why is he not training this? I look like a fool, right? But I have legitimate power, so it's okay no matter what, I'm in charge, right? I hate that level of power. I hate it. And we'll go over that in a little while. Expert power is what you want. And this is what I would preach to my soldiers until I was blue in the face is aim for power. Always aim for power, and you want expert power because that means no matter what rank you are, no matter what experience you have in other things, I'm going to look to you when it comes to, fixing my lawnmower or, artwork, right? I can't draw to save my life. But there's been several times where I've had my soldiers like, hey, can you draw a fill in the blank for me? Can you design a platoon motto or logo for me, right? Because they are experts in that area. And you want to be an expert in your field. You want to be, we were human intelligence collectors, right? You want to be the expert human intelligence collector. I got it. There's people that are trained to be the experts in that field. But how cool would that be if they said, hey, Specialist Cooper, we're going to try this. What do you think about that? Or what would you do different? How cool would that feel, right? That's expert power. So moving away from the physical training portion, we're going to go into basic leadership, right? So that's 2 levels. The next one we're going to go over is referent power. When someone reveres you, right? When they have a lot of respect for you. You know who has a lot of referent power automatically, obviously, is because they are it's your chaplains, right? No matter what, they don't have a power like authoritarian power, but they have that referent power like, oh, you know what, ma'am, I'm sorry I'm going to throw your name in here, but Chaplain Nichols is always, like, anytime I go to the field, I love helping her out with this such and such. Like I helped her and her soldier make a tent, things like that. And in return, I got to celebrate our Lord, right? I got to do praise and worship in the field, like in training. We got to stop and do our church services, and I'd never had a chaplain actually stop, get a group together, and we actually did a service time. It's always been like a real quick prayer, or the chaplain's just there to hand out candy and snacks, which is also awesome, right? But they have that power where they can come in and you look for them, right? And they can stop training. They can literally stop training and be like, let's do this. What do you need from me? How can I help you with fill in the blank, right? And they can't literally stop training because they'll probably get their butts chewed, but it's the fact that they have that power. Or there's the guy in your job who he may not be great at I don't know, artillery or sending, call for fire or any certain things, but the way he or she carries himself is like, dang, that guy I want to follow. And I guess you can look at it as a type of charisma, right? They just are the person you want to follow just because of how they act. And that's a good one to have. If you're not going to have expert power, try for reverent power. It's almost the same, right? When it comes to people respecting you for who you are. So that's legitimate, expert, and referent. All right. Now we're going to go over my 2 least favorite. All right. And you'll see a lot of this with young leaders who need something done and don't want to get in trouble, or they need something done and they don't know how to get you to do it other than being mean, which is the old Jason Eck, right? So first we're going to go over coercive power, and then we're going to go over reward power. I put them in the same category for the same reason. Your coercive power, right? If I tell you, hey, go mow the grass, and you're like, nope, I don't feel like it. And I say, okay, mow the grass, or I'm submitting, I'm recommending it for Article 15, and the commander's going to take your rank and your money, and oh, by the way, you can't drive your car all weekend, right? We can do that stupid stuff in the Army, right? And because of that, you're like, okay, I guess I'll do it. That's coercive power. I will take things away if you don't listen to me. I just had, instead of showing my expert power or even my legitimate power, like, hey, you know what, man, you're a junior enlisted, I'm a senior enlisted, this is what I asked you to do. I will still counsel you if you don't listen to me. I'll still do all these things, but I don't rank you, sorry. There's that one, and there's, I will take stuff away from you if you don't listen to me, and I can do that, and I hate that level of power, right? Hate. The next one, I don't hate it as much, but it's on the same line as coercive, and it's reward power. All right, it's the opposite of coercive, right? So, parents do this with their kids all the time. I still do it, right? Hey, if you go clean up your room, I'll go buy you a snow cone or a milkshake or whatever it is, right? Or for a soldier, right? If y'all make sure the barracks are clean, like super clean by Sunday when I come by and check them, I'll give you Wednesday off. You can have the day off, right? Time is valuable. Soldiers will do anything. That's reward power. What you're doing is you're enticing them with a reward instead of your actual power, your authority, right? Sergeant Wright, if you're watching this, I will be putting that on and taking a picture for you later. In fact, I might even put that one on. I don't know. Okay, so that's the 5 levels of power. What you want to do, you're going to be a young leader, so you're going to want to lean on your legitimate power, of course, right away, right? Make them know who's in charge. But to get them working, you're going to want to exercise expert power, right? And you don't have to exercise expert power in a certain job. If you're out there monitoring them as they do preventative maintenance on a vehicle, that's fine. You need to know what you're doing when it comes to filling out a FIT 988 or 2404, whatever you're using, the proper ways. If you don't know the proper ways, get with your maintenance guys and they'll show you the right way, right? But when it comes to actually treating the soldiers properly, I'm going to read you a quote from Sun Tzu in The Art of War. And that's the book I was going to tell you about reading, all right? This right here not only became a huge, like, oh, I want to read this because it's awesome, but there's so many good things a junior, all the way up to the most senior leader can take from this, right? That's a good book. But One thing he said in it, which really stood out to me, and I put it on my Facebook almost every year, if not every couple years. I will preach it to my soldiers until, I'm not gonna say until I'm blue in the face, even though I already just said it, because I already said it again. But either way, I'll preach it to my soldiers no matter what. And Guy kind of he kind of solidified that for me, which made it really good last week's podcast when he said, if I were to go invade hell, he'd be right there with me. I love that. So anyway, here's the quote. Regard your soldiers as your children, and they will follow you into the deepest valleys. Look onto them as your own beloved sons, and they will stand by you even unto death. If, however, you are indulgent, but unable to make your authority felt, here's the big one, kind-hearted, but unable to enforce your commands, and incapable, moreover, of quelling disorder, then your soldiers must be likened to spoilt children. They are useless for any practical purpose. And that's what it is. If you treat them too kindly, you're just like babying them. And that's where reward power comes in, right? They're useless. They're not gaining any value from you. If you don't turn every single thing into a good teaching point, like I said, if you go to your maintenance guys for PMCS, right? Go to your maintenance guys, what's the proper way to fill this out? Then you get all those soldiers together, and it's like, hey, I know the 6 of us have been sent down here to to do maintenance on 32 vehicles, but this is how we're going to do it. This is how you do it right. I'm going to walk you through it, but also this is how you fill out the forms, right? You're teaching them. You're turning a crappy moment into a teaching point, and you're doing it. I said we the whole time, right? We are doing it. We are going to do this. I will walk you through this. Leaders don't just say, you're going to do this. That's the guy in charge. Anybody can be in charge. Give me that legitimate power. I'll be in charge all day, right? Legitimate power is garbage. You want expert power. You want them to say, dang, Cooper Rose, that guy, he can lead. Look at him. We're down here freezing our hands off, working on these metal vehicles, but guess what? Our leader's right down there with us, and that's what they want to see. They want to see the person who will lead from the front, and actually, it's all about we. It's all about us, right? But also, I got better at this with having children, right? When he says, regard your soldiers as your children, and they will follow you into the deepest valleys, look onto them as your own beloved sons, and they will stand with you even unto death. Like, if you ask any of my soldiers, all the way back up to 2005, no, don't go before that, right? They will tell you, like, yes, he genuinely treated us right. I always told my soldiers, and I'm probably going to get I might get some comments later from a couple leaders, primarily my first sergeant when I was in Alpha Company, 502nd, or any unit probably after that. I always gave my soldiers a freebie every month, right? What's the most panic-inducing feeling ever? When you wake up at 6:03 and physical training was supposed to start at 6, right? How terrible is that feeling ever? And every soldier is like, oh yeah, oh, that's the worst, right? Once a month, I would tell my soldiers, like, hey, if you're going to be late, and you wake up at 6 o'clock or whatever, just text me, man. Hey, Sergeant Eck, I slept in. I'm going to be late. That's your freebie. I don't believe in putting every single thing down on paper. If it's a mistake, it's a mistake. We're people. I guarantee you, this guy who counsels you every week for the stupidest stuff or puts everything on paper or yells at you for the stupid things, that guy probably makes mistakes daily. Right? I'm no better than you. I am no better than anybody in my formation. If I'm going to be late because of sleep apnea, because my baby was up all night long and I ended up waking up late in the morning because I was exhausted, or insomnia, whatever it is, right? If I'm going to be up all night long and I'm going to accidentally sleep through formation, and I'm going to walk to formation because I have that power, right? Because I have the freaking legitimate power, I now am exempt from you yelling at me. There's only one NCO. There's only one non-commissioned officer in the formation that'll yell at me. And you know what? He's going to ask me, why were you late? I'm going to tell him. And that's it. Because this guy gets it. Senior leaders get it, right? Why is my soldier any different? Why am I going to treat you any different than my senior leaders treated me? So yeah, there's your freebie. Please don't do it again. All right? If you do it again, I will have to put it on paper because you're starting to make a habit of it. So yes, anyway, the same thing with your kids, right? Hey, it's, Saturday, and I asked you yesterday, have your room clean? It's not clean yet. Oh, I'm sorry, Dad. I got distracted. You fixed the quad, and I wanted to ride it for a while. Okay, whatever. Get it done by the end of the day, right? They don't get done by the end of the day. Okay, that's it. You're not riding the quad for the rest of the weekend. As a matter of fact, you're not doing anything fun until your room's clean. And that, yeah, you're using coercive power, all that stuff, but you've already given it the nice guy approach, right? Or there's, why aren't you cleaning the room? Ask the why. The why is very important, right? Oh, because it's so messy that I get overwhelmed when I look at it. No problem. Do you want me to come help you? Sure. Right? And that's when I sit on the floor and I pick things up. Hey, where does this go? Hey, where does this go? Where does this go? And I don't put it away for them. I give it to them. Okay, cool. Put it there. Okay, cool. Put it there. As a matter of fact, let's put everything in categories. These are clothes. Put those in that pile. These are toys. Put those in that pile. Right? These are arts and crafts. Put those in this pile. And then we put things away. And then we organize while we're at it. Right? So that's leading. And I treat my soldiers like my children. I love soldiers. I love my soldiers. I don't know if you're picking up all these vibrations, and if you are, I'm sorry, but I genuinely, anybody who serves our military, knowing that they are giving up all a lot of their basic freedoms, right? Not literally basic freedoms. You can still do stuff, but they're giving a lot of their freedoms away, right? And on top of that, you're volunteering. You're not joining the Boy Scouts or the Girl Scouts. You're joining an organization you're going to go to war, right? You might not leave the base at all, ever. But you know what? Doesn't mean the base doesn't get attacked, right? You're always in danger. You could be in the simplest of jobs, and guess what? Something terrible will happen, right? So about a week ago was the anniversary of a suicide attack that happened on my base. And I'm going to tell that story later, but it's hard. I did leave the base quite often. We had a lot of off-post missions, but it hit me just as hard as it hit the cook next door, who doesn't get to leave the base, right? He still felt that. The soldiers that lost their lives were wounded. They felt that. They may have never left the base, but they were in combat. They were blown up unexpectedly. It doesn't matter what your job is. It doesn't matter anything. The fact of the matter is, you volunteer to put yourself in harm's way. So there's not a draft. So there's nobody that gets forced into it. I went on a little ramble there. I promise I'll tell that full story. You know what? At the end of this, I'm going to tell that story why I love soldiers so much. I'm going to tell the full story. If I forget this and then I post the video or the podcast, feel free to yell at me and comment and tell me what a dummy I am. But I will tell you why I love soldiers so much. So civilian side, if you didn't understand what I meant by the first legitimate and then the expert power, let's say you're in a job, you are working in a place that rents condominiums or hotel rooms, or you're working in a timeshare, whatever. You're working in a place where people have condos on a timeshare or suites in a timeshare. So you've been working there 8 years. You know your ins and outs. You're an analyst or something, or you could be whatever you are, right? But then they're like, hey, we're going to promote. As a matter of fact, we're going to direct hire somebody that's going to be your manager, right? They're the new manager. You have to do everything he or she says. And they come in. Because of the manager, they have that legitimate power. They've been given the authority, right? They've been given that power. And it's legitimate. It isn't fake, right? It isn't like, oh, you're a pretend manager. No, they're really their manager. And they come in. And they're like, all right, first thing I'm going to do is we're going to adjust the cleaning schedule to this and this and this. And then we're going to do this. And you're like, And you're the person, right? You've been here 8 years. You've been here longer than anybody in your office. And you're like, actually, we tried that about 4 years ago. It didn't work. And this is why. And you're like, I don't care. I don't care what we tried for you. We're doing it my way. And we're going to make it work, right? Right away, because you're the longest person there. They're going to look at you, again, as the expert here. Oh, they already tried that. They have a lesson that they learned from this. Why is the legitimate power. Why is this manager not listening to him or her, right? So that's the level of powers, and everything else you kind of get, right? Everything else kind of ties in, especially when it comes to referent power. That could be the same thing. You've only been working there a week and a half, but you're like, actually, I thought about this. Based off my last experience and this, I don't think it'll work, and this is why. And people look at you like, dang, this guy, this person knows what they're talking about. This girl knows what she's talking about. You have that referent power right away. And this person with legitimate power still has a legitimate power. You're going to do what they say no matter what, right? Because you want that paycheck to come in. But they're going to look at you a little different. And then, of course, there's reward and coercive, which is anything. I'll take this away or I'll give you this if you listen to me. Please, 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 please. So now we're going to get into, what was it? Oh, Michelle, you asked a question. You want me to talk about, I can't go back to it right now because it would take me 3 years, but a little bit about what kind of support did you get from family while I was in basic training. So this story is going to be about me. When I was there, we didn't have cell phones. They weren't really a thing, unless you were like a doctor or something, or in a command position, they would have some kind of cell phone. But we had a phone bank, a whole wall of payphones, and you got one phone call when you first got there. Hey, I arrived, I'm fine. You get one phone call like week 3, like, hey, I'm still doing fine. And then another one where you get to tell them about graduation. They get a letter anyway. And then one after that. And then it's a little different now. I think they get their phones like every Sunday. It all depends on the organization they're in, where they go to basic training. But it varies. And also, you can write letters every single day, right? And then you can get letters every single day. There's mail call. And soldiers have fun with it. Drill sergeants pick on them. They do all kinds of mean stuff. But it's really just for fun. And it's like the soldiers get to experience that. And they get to talk about, oh, I remember at mail call, my drill sergeant did this. You can write that soldier every single day. I think the only letter I got in basic training was from my sister, Jennifer. She wrote me a letter. Actually, she may have written me a couple letters, but no one else wrote me any letters. I didn't have that much support. My family is very much, I'm not saying my immediate family, I'm talking about my family, is very much like, you're a grown man. You were 18 years old, you made this decision, good luck, call us if you need anything, right? It's a little bit different when you have a really tight-knit immediate family. Right, I lived with my cousins when I left for the Army. I didn't live with my mom, and even if I did live with my mom, she's not a touchy-feely kind of person. As a matter of fact, the first letter I ever got from my mom, I was in the Army for 6 years. I was in Iraq, and she sent me a letter telling me how proud she was of me, and I still have that letter somewhere over here. But yeah, during basic training, I got no letters, and I was so envious of everyone because they all got them. They got packages, they got letters every single day, and I'm over here like, I don't have anything. I guess I'll shine my boots a little longer, or whatever the situation. I would write letters. I wrote a couple letters home. I mailed pictures, the stupidest pictures ever from my basic training. I mailed those home, all that stuff, but I never got letters. Just the one, like I said. But yes, you can. As far as support, letters are awesome. To know that you're in there sucking, right? You're suffering. Everything is terrible in your opinion because you never dealt with that before. This is all new experience and it sucks, right? To get that letter from home at the end of the day and read it like, oh yes, this is awesome. It's one of the best feelings. I don't know that personally. Like I said, I only got the one. But I imagine how cool it would feel if I got it, right? And I got letters and stuff while I was deployed, and it was always really nice when I was deployed in a combat zone to get a letter at the end of a mission or whatever it was, whatever the situation may be. We got a lot of care packages too. I will say, Michelle, if you're going to mail a care package, you should put a lot of like gummy worms, it's holiday season. Go to Walmart. They have bags and bags of candy. Stuff it full, right? And send them a care package with all the candy ever. And on the outside, say, actually, you know what? You can say something like, I can't believe you said your drill sergeant doesn't make you do real physical training. or something along those lines, right? Drill sergeants love trash talk. It's hilarious. If you want to troll them, give me a call or a text later, and I'll give you something to write on the outside of the box or envelope, whatever you send. They love trash talk. It's fun, and it makes everyone laugh. It makes all the soldiers really happy. So, yeah. Anyway, I can just give me a text or a call later, and I'll help you out, or message, or write on the page. And I have other soldiers that follow my page, and they'll give you suggestions too. But yeah, so that's the 2 questions I was answering. It is 30 minutes in. I'm going to tell you why I love soldiers so much. So, I don't know if you remember, but my mouse stopped moving, so this is cool. Hopefully it's recording. A couple episodes ago, I talked about this sergeant major when I was in Korea. It's the episode where I talked about being such a toxic leader. When I was in Korea, he told me, look at the private that I assaulted, and he reminded me that he joined during a time of war, and that him and I joined in the 90s. There was nothing going on in the mid 90s and late 90s, right? That was it for that, and it changed. Like I said, it changed my opinion a little bit on junior soldiers. And then when I went to recruiting school in 2006 after I got back from Iraq. And this, like I said, Iraq was a pivotal time for me as far as my leadership experience and the way I treated soldiers. It was very much, a lot changed during that time period. So I got to where I didn't hate soldiers, right? For some reason, you become a leader and you're automatically supposed to hate soldiers. And I'll get into those later too. Those are more soapboxy talks. But I stopped hating them, right? I treated them with more respect, and I appreciated them, right? I came out of a combat zone right before that course, and if it weren't for Derek, and we'll call him JK for now because I don't have permission to use his name, and others, but primarily Derek, who knows where I could be right now. I told you, when I would get out of my vehicles, it's like during that one IED attack, and there's another one I'll talk about in another story, but anytime I got out of my vehicle, I took no weapon with me because it was a long gun. It was a cannon that I had to carry around, right? It was stupid. It was awkward. And my gunner had a 50 cal 10 feet behind me, right? If I was assessing a casualty, if I was getting with the police to find out any certain situation, fill in the blank, right? If I was doing any of those things, he was right there to watch me. And this dude was amazing at shooting. We were going 65 miles an hour down the highway, screaming. If you've been 65 miles an hour on me, you can't even hear each other talk, right? And he says, Sergeant, can I take a shot? Can I shoot that old oil tanker out there? And it had to be 300 yards out in the desert. I said, I don't care. Let's find out, right? So I got on the phone. I said, hey, Sergeant Bud. Well, I think what were we? We were the dirty, I think it was dirty 1-7. Can my gunner go ahead and take a test shot at the oil tanker out there? And he said he gets 1 round on a 50 cal. If you don't know that, they have a butterfly switch. They do a single fire, but we always kept it on fully auto, right? So he said 1 round, and I said, go ahead and switch it to 1 round, man. He said, no, I can do it without that. So a butterfly switch, if you hold it down for just longer than like that, you're going to shoot more than 1 round. This dude at 65 miles an hour takes 1 shot and nailed the tanker. Amazing shot, right? That point on, I was like, I have nothing to worry about. I got this guy on my side, right? And it was true. I took him out. This dude always had my back. And Derek is so freaking alert. He is so, ready to destroy stuff. And Derek, this is how serious he was, right? He quit school in the 4th grade because they had recess. He doesn't play. All right. So he's just that guy, right? As a matter of fact, no, I'm not. That's stupid. You know, I will tell. When we first started using our kits, our IOTV, they used to call them IBA. We just stuck 2 plates in the front and back, and that was it. And what we would do is run up behind somebody and then jump with our back to theirs, and we called it turtle somethinging. 2 shells clacking together. I don't know why we called it that, but we would do that. And someone did it to him, and he lost his mind. He literally wanted to fight that guy. So that's just Derek's personality. He's we were out on the road, game face no matter what. Now, if we were in garrison, if we were back where it was a little safer, he'd probably joke around more, but that was business time. He had a job to do. He didn't have games to play, and it was great. But anyway, I could do anything. He had my back no matter what. So he gave me a different opinion on soldiers, right? I didn't have to be mean to him to get him to listen to me. I could just be me, right? Anyway, back to recruiting school. So we're in recruiting school, and we're going on a run. And we're at Fort Jackson. This is when recruiting school was in Fort Jackson, South Carolina. And we get up, we get ready, we're starting to run in the morning, and the commander's running with us, right? So it's the whole recruiting school class was together on this run. It's a pretty big formation. And we're cruising, running down the road, singing some kind of stupid cadence, and a basic training unit was coming towards us. So it's all privates. All kids were brand new to the Army, right? And I'm in a group of all non-commissioned officers, all leaders, right? And they start yelling. I'm going to cuss here, so I apologize. But they're like, fucking privates, stinky ass privates, yelling at them, cursing them, like saying all these terrible things. And it was like, I was just in the back like, why are they even, this is so stupid. You guys look like a bunch of, like a high school bullies is what you look like right now, right? So the commander stops the formation immediately, pulls us to the side, moves us over, and he's like, hey, you know that formation you just yelled at and were belittling? Every single one of those soldiers joined during a time of war. Not only did they join during a time of war, we're in 2 different wars right now, and Iraq was at like the height of Iraq in 2006-7, right? And here these new privates are, sign the dotted line from whatever city, state, country they're from, or county, I'm sorry. I guess countries too, depends, right? These guys all volunteered, knowing for a fact they were going to get deployed in the height of war. And when the commander said that, it hit me again. Even though I had heard it before about one person, now I heard it about an entire 62, 63 people, right? And then I look around. I mean, there's privates everywhere. Every single one of these great Americans signed that line. Hey, mom and dad, I'm joining the Army. And that doesn't go for it's every branch of the service, but I was in the Army, and that's all I care about right now, right? Hey, mom and dad, you know what they hear? Hey, mom, I'm going to war. Hey, dad, I'm going to combat now. See ya. Right? The logic leaves their brain. They hear Army, they think war, because that's what we've been involved for 19 years, right? So that's what they hear, and right away it gave me a love for soldiers. And how perfect timing, since I was becoming a recruiter. I never, from that point on, I can honestly tell you, I never, ever disrespected another soldier a day in my life, because I joined in 1998. There was nothing going on when I signed that line. All right. If I turned 18 in 2002, all right, and what are you going to do after high school, Jason? I'm going to go get another concrete job. I'm going to get another job in construction, and I'm going to do whatever, build houses, run electric, whatever I have to do. I'm going to get a trade and be trained by somebody, because I don't want to go to school anymore, so I'm not going to go ahead and get trained at a technical school for these things, but I also don't want to go to college, so guess I'm working a trade for the rest of my life, right, until I get good at it. I would not have joined the Army. When I joined the Army, I was like, what's the least dangerous job I can do? And I thought about it, and I was like, if I'm going to do a job, I want to do something cool, right? So my recruiter was an airborne ranger. I was like, I want to be you, right? I want to wear that cool beret. I want to tell the cool airborne stories. I was 145 pounds. I would have floated on a parachute. It was great. I failed the colorblind test. It was verified that I was colorblind. I didn't believe it until that day. I still don't kind of believe it because I know colors. But I failed the colorblind test, and I couldn't be an airborne ranger. So I get to the counselor, and he's like, what do you want to do, man? These are the jobs that come up for people who are colorblind. And one of them was 13 Mike, multiple launch rocket system crew member. I said, what is that? And he said, as a matter of fact, That's what I used to do. So told me a little bit about it. I was like, done, dude. I get to shoot rockets and missiles. This is great. And I get to be hundreds of miles from front line. Perfect. Right? I did that not because of the glory of shooting rockets and missiles. I told people that. Why would I tell people? I did it because I wanted to be away from the front lines. But I told people, hey, this is how cool I am. But in my head, it was, hey, if we go to combat, I don't shoot bullets. I shoot rockets. I shoot missiles. They go so far, they're going to hide me in the back. They're only going to call me when they need me. This is great. Right? I was so scared when I joined the Army. There was no war going on. So here I am, 1999, I go to basic training. 2000, easy job. 2001, easy peasy, man. I'm going to re-enlist. This is so great. July 21st, 2001, I re-enlisted for 6 years. I said, this is freaking cake, man. I love this. I have all the benefits I could possibly want. The Army's paying my rent. I live in the barracks. This is so awesome. I love this, right? And, the hardest work I do is go to the field and shoot rockets, right? And come back and scrape exhaust off my launcher. And I sweep a line. I sweep a motor pool, right? I was a young stud. I was about 160 pounds at that point. And I could do push-ups for days, run for days. It doesn't matter. I was a stud. I love the Army. September 11th happens. And I'm sitting there. I was a volunteer at the Youth Services Center in Fort Sill. And I'm driving into work. And I get on the radio station, the plane hit the World Trade Center. I don't know what's going on, blah, 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 some kind of freak accident. And then I'm on the radio, right? So I get to my place of business where it's at the Youth Services Center, and I tell my manager and everyone else, I'm like, hey, a plane just hit the World Trade Center. This is wild. They're talking all kinds of conspiracy theories. Let's turn on the news so you can see. I want to see this thing, right? Like 3 minutes into it, I watched the next plane go into the World Trade Center. And I was like, oh, dear God, what have I done? I had just re-enlisted not even 2 months prior. For 6 years. I was so scared. I was like, what am I going to do? I can't run away from this. I will never abandon my post, right? I'm not going to just leave the Army. I'm going to have to go to war. And like I said in one of my other episodes, they had just made me promotable. And it wasn't too long after that when I was on that gate guard duty because of September 11th. That first sergeant questioned my leadership abilities, and I should have said, you're right. I'm not capable of this. Right? Because I was so scared. I would have done, if they would have said, hey, we're about to go to war. If any of y'all don't want to go, now's your chance. I would have considered it. Right? After I deployed a few times, I would not change anything in my life. But you know what? The fact, at that point, I had been in the Army for 2 years, over 2 years at that point. And I knew everything about the Army, right? And I was ready to go home. And yet still people were lined up at their recruiter's office to join the Army. And I was scared. That gave me an insane amount of respect for my soldiers. I would do anything to show them my gratitude, and I did. And people told me I was too nice to soldiers. They told me I was too friendly. Whatever it is. But you know what? My soldiers did every single thing I asked of them. And 9 times out of 10, they came back and said, did I do it right? Do I need to do more? Because I treated them with the respect that they deserved. They deserve. If you know a soldier, if you're friends with a soldier who's in the Army right now or who joined at all ever, if you're not thanking them for their service, if you're not looking at them with a different kind of respect, think about, did I join the Army? When the nation called, when our nation needed us the most to stand up and help and be ready to fight on their behalf, to defend, to fight for what they did to us, was I there? Even if you don't believe in the wars, right? Even if you don't believe that these wars should even have happened, look at the people who believe in our country, who love our country enough to say, hey, I'm willing to go train fight, and possibly die for the country I love. No one's forcing them to do it. There's no draft. No one's coercing them to do it. There is a reward power. I get all my benefits are good now, right? But to die, well, who would die for college money? Who would die for free rent? Who would die for health care? Nobody would die for that. And these dudes, these chicks, these men and ladies are signing up to serve our awesome country. We can argue about politics. We can argue about pick a thing we don't agree on. Right? We're all keyboard warriors. But these heroes in our lives, they're all over the place. I will never, ever not respect the soldiers in my life. And if I've called plenty of leaders out on being jerks. You don't have to be a jerk to these guys. You don't. Think about that. Think about if you're in a leadership position and you're being a jerk to your soldiers, that man or woman halted their entire life, everything they were doing to serve their country. They put it on pause. They sure, you can keep going to college while you're in it, right? You can keep doing all these things, but they left their family, they left their friends, they left the town they knew, they left everything they knew to blindly serve our country. And to treat them like garbage. As leaders, who are we? Who are we to treat them like that? Right? Like, I can go into it all day long. And this is why I'm a full 100% believer in servant leadership. I will never not feel that way. And it's unbelievable to believe that at one point I did feel that way. Right? I'm so glad I had the leaders in my life that have adjusted my opinion on leadership, whether by things they literally said or things they portrayed. They did. They led by example. I've used Sergeant Major Bunn in a few of my examples. I have so many more. I have First Sergeant Reed, who was the most calm, knowledgeable first sergeants I've ever had. I had First Sergeant Taylor, who always got involved with every single soldier event we did, and I did too. And there's Staff Sergeant Valcarcel, who was right there with me. Staff Sergeant Villarreal, who was right there with me. Several other people who were right there every single time. I had First Sergeant Sadler, who was not even a first sergeant yet, but as a sergeant first class stepped in that role and he killed it. Who mentored me a lot as a senior NCO. He taught me how to be an E7. He taught me the technical side of being a leadership, being a leader, how to mess with Excel, access, things like that. I had so many leaders in my life. First Sergeant Hawkins, who came in after an incredibly toxic leader, and we were, one, skeptical of who our next first sergeant would be, or we're going to have to deal with this again, but two, at the same time, incredibly happy to get in the leader, and a lot of people knew him already, and we were beyond excited to have him. And he was an amazing, amazing leader, both deployed and back in garrison. The list goes on. My first sergeant, Andrew Ruscavage. I don't know if anybody has contact with this guy, but I lost contact with him about 10 years ago, and I wish I didn't, because he, still to this day, his leadership style has an impact on me. These are all just a senior command. I haven't even talked about non-commissioned officers that I've mirrored my leadership style off and mirrored or opposite, like avoided doing things the way I do. And I'll get into that story soon too. And I want to follow up with another quote that every leader should know. And this is going back to you, Cooper. Colin Powell said this: "The day the soldiers stop bringing you their problems is the day you stop leading them. They have either lost the confidence that you can help them, or concluded that you don't care. Either case is a failure of leadership. Remember, servant leadership, our job is to help our soldiers to become leaders, to become better soldiers. It's not to force them to do anything. It's not to be in charge of them and hope they do. Help them, right? It could be even in their lives. If they have something going on at home, let them leave. No mission is so important that you can't say, Specialist Smith, go home and take care of your family. Let me know what's going on. Not tell me all the details about your family life. Let me know if you need any help. Let me know if you need my support. Let me know if you need me to escort you to Army Community Services so I can help you out. Don't just send them there. If they want to go alone, send them. If they need an escort, offer to go there with them and take them. But Kongpao hit the nail on the head. Sun Tzu, years and years and years and years ago, hit the nail on the head. They made it so easiest. Jesus Christ. He made it. I'm literally saying Jesus Christ. I'm not using his name in vain. There's so many things you can pull from that, and that's the last quote I'm going to end with. And another thing, when I was in Iraq, every single mission I went to, the first thing I did, get all the soldiers together, every single break in mission, and I would go to one group. They would smoke a cigar, so I'd smoke cigars with them. I'd go to JK, and he was practicing lassoing, so I did lassoing. Another guy wanted to compete and do combatives, so I'd wrestle around with them. Whatever the situation, I would do it with them because I did something they loved to earn their trust. To say, hey, Sergeant X not just here to yell at me and be in charge of me. But after that, I would go, I'd find my cot, I would lay down, and I'd open my Bible. And I'd read a little bit, and it wasn't because I need to catch up on my studies. I wasn't following any plan. It was literally I need to get in the book and see where the Lord takes me. And I would find something to read. And always, every single time I did it, or almost every time, I would find something that helped, that was relevant to what was going on at that time. And that's how I knew I was being talked to, I was being spoken to. And I knew on a lot of our missions, we had divine intervention. Like, I'm not saying because of who we are. I'm not saying because we practice anything. I'm saying God was there, and he had our backs, right? And I know that doesn't go on my leadership stories. I know a lot of you, some of my friends aren't faithful, and they're not religious. They don't believe in that sort of thing. And that's okay. Everybody has their own belief, right? But it gave me strength to keep leading. It gave me strength to, it almost made me feel like I knew I was coming home to my family, and that's all that mattered, right? So, that last couple minutes, I know I went on a tangent, but I hope I answered the two questions I had. I strongly suggest you read The Art of War. In fact, this is my 6th copy because I keep giving them to my junior leaders. I'll buy the book, I'll read it. I've read it several times, and I'll just give it to a junior leader. Like, hey, use this as a tool. Hayden, I'm looking at you. You have one of my favorite ones. But as you can see, I bought another one. And I think what I'm going to try to do in the next podcast or two, I might mail this to someone. If you want it, shoot me a message. I'll go through the messages. And honestly, I'm going to pick my favorite one, whoever I think deserves it the most, or whoever I think needs it the most. Or if I only get one message, that guy or girl gets it. Right? But it's an amazing, amazing book. And I would love to send it. I would love to send it to somebody. Even if I have to have my wife just pick a random number and I give it to that person. You all are deserving, and anybody can buy their own book, but I would like to send my copy to somebody, and I'll just buy another one for myself. Yeah, same thing as always. If you guys have any questions, hit me on one of the platforms. If you have a comment, shoot it down below. If you're watching the video, or message me on my page. You know what? I don't normally ask for this, but please like, comment, subscribe if you haven't, and spread the word. Share this with other people, veterans, people. Leadership isn't limited to the Army. Leadership is everywhere. And yeah, shoot me a comment. I like answering them. It's fun. Even if you're joking with me, it's hilarious. Again, thanks for listening. This is now our longest episode. And I don't even have anybody here to talk to. I was just rambling. I hope you got something from this. If you did, please let me know. If anything came of this that you could use, or you oh, I didn't think about that. Please, please, please let me know. Comment, say something, so I know I'm not just talking to a phone screen. If you want to hear anything, do that as well. Let me know. Go to my page, comment on YouTube, something, message me. If there's something you want to hear, let me know. And if you comment it somewhere, someone else might feel the same way and they might ask the same question. Again, thank you all so freaking much for listening. This is awesome. And until next Wednesday, take it easy. Love y'all.